Well, happy fourth Sunday of Advent and Merry Christmas. It's good to be with you all. I haven't done this in like 2 weeks now. So I got to preach the first Sunday of Advent, and then we had our special speaker, our General Superintendent, Carla Sundberg, was with us, which was a wonderful treat. It was good to have her here with us and sharing. And then last Sunday, what a wonderful kids presentation. Would you agree? Yeah, I almost don't want to get rid of the set. It's so fun. Maybe we'll incorporate it into the next sermon series and just leave it. No. So here we are. We've arrived at the fourth Sunday of Advent, and your pastor hasn't preached in a couple of weeks, so buckle up. Plus, my wife's not here, so we don't know where this is going. But church, thank you. I want to thank you for all that you do. It's been a busy holiday season, from your serving from really Thanksgiving all the way through, with the angel tree, with helping out with a teen fundraiser, with the holiday stroll and the outreach event, with preparing for the kids musical, with all the stuff that you have done. Thank you. Thank you for your generosity, for your kindness, and for your sweat. Church doesn't just happen. And just so you know, thank you for honoring your staff and for doing that today. That's so appreciative. But the four of us don't do it all. There's so many others of you that step up and volunteer and serve. And so thank you. Thank you. This church functions not because of four people who are paid to do it. It functions because of you. You are the church. So thank you. This fourth Sunday, as we lit the fourth bulb, kind of different, right? Kind of fun, kind of different. As we lit the fourth bulb, you heard a phrase that was mentioned. You heard a phrase that said, welcoming the dawn. Welcoming the dawn. See, there's a moment that takes place before sunrise. Anybody like to watch the sunrise? Crazy people. No, I'm teasing. I'm sorry. No, I'm teasing. There's something beautiful about those moments just before sunrise. In fact, just before sunrise, it's still dark, right? Yeah. The night hasn't fully released its grip just yet. It's still holding on. That night hasn't quite let go, but what's beautiful about that is the darkness has already lost its authority and has no more control. Are you following me? See, you don't see the sun yet. It hasn't crested over just yet, but you know it's coming. And there is nothing that's stopping it. Folks, that's the picture of Advent. He is coming to us. The night hasn't quite released just yet, but darkness no longer has control. That's the picture of Advent. See, for weeks we've been talking about waiting and watching, and today, on this Sunday, we say we're going to welcome the dawn. Not just a picture of a baby in a manger, not just a sweet story that we tell once a year. Oh, it's Christmas, so he's going to preach out of Luke chapter 2 again. Not just that stuff, which, by the way, I am. But, see, when dawn breaks through, the light changes everything. Would you agree? It changes everything. If you have your Bibles, it will be on the screen, but if you have your Bibles, turn to the book of Malachi. That's not one that we hear of too often, is it? Turn to the book of Malachi. Malachi actually closes out the Old Testament with this image so powerful that it echoes all the way to Bethlehem. It's a beautiful, beautiful picture. Malachi chapter 4, verse 2. Malachi chapter 4, verse 2. I want you to hear this. This is what it says. But for you who fear my name, The Son of Righteousness shall rise with healing in its wings. Notice what God promises in this passage through the prophet Malachi. He says this, a sunrise, not a spotlight. See, a spotlight just illuminates one single area. A sunrise, though, makes the darkness retreat. He says healing. He uses the phrase healing, not condemnation. That has echoes of John 3:16 and 3:17. I came, right, not to condemn. Yeah? And then notice he uses the word righteousness, the Son of Righteousness, not the son of revenge. Folks, we live in a world where a lot of people think if they even believe in God, that God is out to get them. That is not the case. He is here to restore. He is here to bring back, to build back. This is not God storming in with thunder like an army that's going to come and take over and forcibly redo everything. That's not the case at all. This is God arriving like the morning light that bathes over everything. You know, the sunrise doesn't come in and argue with the night. You ever seen the sun start to come up and be like, not today? That doesn't happen. The light doesn't come and negotiate with the darkness. In fact, when we look at darkness, darkness has no properties of its own. The only thing darkness is the absence of light. Darkness has no properties, which means if it has no properties, it has no power. Do you hear that? The sunrise doesn't argue with the night. It doesn't negotiate with the darkness. It simply shows up, and the darkness must retreat. Pretty cool, right? You like that? You're not acting like it. That's okay. I'm going to take a drink while you kind of get your act together, and then we'll keep going. There we go. So remember, I know we have some visitors today. It's Christmas. You're probably tired. You're on sugar crashes from, the weekend, and you've been shopping, so your feet are probably sore, unless you do everything on Amazon, then your fingers are sore. So you're probably worn out. But remember, I have two rules when I preach. Number one, it's okay to talk. It's okay. So if I ask or it's okay to talk and respond. I think we should. I attended, and this rule came when I was a youth pastor in Michigan, and I attended a Saturday night Jewish Shabbat Unplugged. It was their contemporary service. And I fell in love with how they did service. It was family style. Everyone was there, and everyone participated. They talked, they shared, they thought out loud. It was fantastic. And I think we can incorporate some of that style here. So it's okay to talk. That's rule number one. All right, you with me? And then rule number two, it's okay to be on your phone. Oh, really? Yes, it's okay to be on your phone. Take notes. Take pictures. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Send your friends a text. Hey, log on to the Facebook page or to the YouTube page. You're missing something good. Let them know you missed them. Look around. Who's not here? I miss you guys. Praying for you, thinking about you. It's okay to be on your phone. Follow along in Scripture. All right? That way, if I mess up a word, you can laugh at me later. So it's okay to talk, and it's okay to be on your phone. And the part number two is it's okay to be on your phone except for, there we go, because you guys aren't taking notes. You're playing games. All right, back at it, all right? That was our commercial. Where were we? Sunlight, sunrise. When the sun rises, the darkness retreats. It has to, because it has no power of its own. It can't stop the sunrise. In fact, some of you probably this morning, you walked in because you've had heavy nights of grief. Some of you have probably walked in carrying exhaustion because that darkness of exhaustion has been on you. It's been a heavy season. Some of you walked in with heavy anxiety. You're stressed. You don't know what tomorrow holds. You have unanswered questions. You don't know what's next, and you have heavy stress. I know some of you have unanswered prayers, and that can weigh on you. And so even on a beautiful morning like this in southern Florida, some of us have walked in with darkness inside and heavy inside. I want you to know that God knows right where you are. And his word says he is close to the brokenhearted. Do not feel like you are alone. And do not let the darkness overcome, because the darkness has no power over you. The sun has risen. Yes? Let's go a little bit deeper. Before Luke tells us the story of the shepherds and the angels, and Mary sings her song, and heaven breaks open, before all of that, Malachi speaks this final word in the Old Testament. And it's important, I think, that we understand why Malachi does this. Because I want you to realize that book that we have, maybe it sits on a shelf and is in dust, but that book called the Bible is one story from Genesis to Revelation, and then on as God continues to reveal himself. That's one story. It's not just little 66 little chunks. It's one beautiful love letter written to his creation. And so it's important to understand where this little passage, this little chunk that we call Malachi, where it stands in the story. Malachi, in fact, was written after Israel had returned from exile. For those of you that were here with us as we talked about the exiles and the architects and all of that stuff, as we looked at Ezra and Nehemiah and this return from captivity, here we are in the story a little bit later. The temple has been rebuilt. Worship has resumed. And life looks pretty normal again. Looks fairly normal again. But spiritually, something was very wrong. It was very wrong. In fact, life had gotten so normal that the people were just going through the motions. You ever find yourself just going through the motions? Oh, it's Sunday. Cafe opens at 10. I'll get there about 10:15. I'll talk to the 3 or 4 people that I'm comfortable talking to as I get my coffee. I'll sit at the same spot that I normally sit in. That way I don't have to interact with so-and-so, or I can quickly get out if I need to. They're going to sing 3, maybe 4 songs, depending on what Eric lets Gus do. At some point, there's going to be a prayer. At least twice, they're going to forget a slide. And then after he preaches, or whoever does, there's going to be a blessing, and then they're going to be dismissed, and we're going to get to go home. And then really the most important part is figuring out where we're going to eat after church. You ever find yourself getting stuck in a loop and just going through the motions 52 times a year? Have you been there? I'll be honest, I'm the preacher, and I have. It's Tuesday. Tuesday is when I study and I write and try to do all that stuff. And I really try to have the sermon notes in by Wednesday, Thursday, the latest. But as Gus knows, that doesn't always happen. And usually it's Saturday night. So you can put the slides together and then, But we go through the motions and we get in this loop. That's where the people of Israel were in Malachi's time. They got stuck just going through the motions. The priests were careless with how they worshiped. The sacrifices, they were just half-hearted. Faith had become routine. Folks, when faith becomes routine, it's no longer relational, and that's dangerous. They're back in their land. They're back in their homes. Everything looks good. Life is normal again. But emotionally, their hearts are tired. See, Malachi then breaks in and speaks into that weariness, speaks into that spiritual emptiness, and says, God sees you. He knows where you are. God is not finished with you. Just because all of the pieces are put back together, just because your temple is pretty and functioning how it should function, that doesn't mean that I am done with you. God says something more is coming. And through the prophet Malachi, he calls the people to faithfulness, and he makes a promise to them. He makes a promise. He says, a messenger is coming. A messenger is coming. A refiner is coming. A day is coming. And then Malachi ends not with resolution, but with anticipation. With anticipation, leaning into it. For you who fear my name, the Son of Righteousness shall rise with healing in its wings. That's the last image that Israel is given before heaven goes silent. Now think about this. There's no more prophets. There's no more words. There's no more declarations. No more updates from God. They're called to wait. And they wait for 400 years. Did you hear that? That's a long time. That's longer than our country has been a country. We think we have old history here. We have no idea. That's longer than we've been saying the Pledge of Allegiance. 400 years. No, that's literal 400 years. So a few generations. Yes. There we go. But think about that, generation after generation. So multiple generations lived and died. And if we think about stories that we've passed on to our family, to our kids, it's hard to think back. I can remember stories from my grandfather, but I don't remember stories from my great-grandfather. So think about how hard it was to continue. So it makes sense at this point why their hearts, why their faith had become routine. It makes sense, doesn't it? Now, things making sense is not an excuse. So for us to try to make sense of where we are in our journey, that's not making an excuse. But 400 years, generation after generation, they lived, they prayed, they worshiped, they died. They lived, they prayed, they worshiped, they died. They lived, they prayed, they worshiped, they died. For 400 years. For 400 years, they watched the horizon looking. For 400 years, they taught their children as best they could. For 400 years, they tried to cling to hope. See, Malachi, he didn't come and just predict Christmas. What Malachi did is he created a longing. A longing. So when Luke opens his gospel, he's not starting a new story. The story's already begun. He's continuing this story that for 400 years has been holding its breath. Do you feel the anticipation? Do you feel that longing? When the angels appear in the sky, and that's part of that Luke story, it's not random. The shepherds probably thought it was random. Never seen that before. It's fulfillment of a promise spoken centuries earlier. That sun that Malachi promised, it rises, but not in a palace. It rises, but not to kings. That sun rises not with fire, but with a baby's cry. That's the picture of the dawn. Now, Luke then enters into the scene and tells us that the light enters quietly. It enters humbly. It enters not just that, but also intentionally. While the world's busy doing what the world does, God slips into this story unnoticed by most. The shepherds noticed. Mary and Joseph noticed. The Magi noticed. But it was never unnoticed by heaven. Heaven knew exactly what was happening. And when the angels announced it, notice what they didn't say. Notice what they didn't say. They don't say, good news for all the perfect people. That's good, right? They don't say, good news for those who have it all together. Because that's not me. They say, good news of great joy for all people. That should make a difference how we operate in our spiritual lives out there. Shouldn't it? Jesus came for all. And it's good news. I haven't met anybody that doesn't like sharing good news. Have you? When we have good news in our lives, we like to share it. This is the moment that Malachi was pointing towards. This is the healing that he promised. This is that sunrise after centuries of night. And now here we are in Luke. Now I want to read just a couple of verses because you've heard this story. You know the Luke story. Luke chapter 2. At the time, the Roman Emperor Augustus decreed that a census should be taken throughout the Roman Empire. All returned to their own ancestral towns to register for this census. And because Joseph was a descendant of King David, he had to go to Bethlehem in Judea, David's ancient home. He traveled there from the village of Nazareth in Galilee. He took with him Mary, to whom he was engaged and was now expecting a child. And while they were there, the time came for her baby to be born. She gave birth to her firstborn son. She wrapped him snugly in strips of cloth and laid him in a manger because there was no lodging available for them. That first part tells us that the light of the world enters not in a palace, not with a throne, not with a big royal announcement. There's just this decree from Caesar, a young engaged couple in a borrowed stable. The dawn arrived humbly. Humbly. Here's I think, the irony of Christmas. The one who holds the universe together needed to be held. The one who commands angels slept in a feeding trough. The light of the world came into the world that was at night. See, God didn't wait for perfect conditions. He didn't wait for humanity to get themselves cleaned up and make themselves presentable for him. He stepped into the mess. That's the beauty of Christmas. And as he stepped into that mess, he brought healing and salvation and light with him. That's the beauty of Christmas. That's such good news, because if he came any other way, none of us would qualify. See, Christmas isn't about new shiny things wrapped up under a tree. It's about broken things being made new through him. That's the beautiful thing of Christmas. The light is then announced to those that were really the least likely. And you know the story of the shepherds. I think if today, if we were writing this story, we might want to announce it to the influencers, those who can get the message out quickly. I don't know if we'd go to the media because they're not quite, Maybe we go to heads of state or to leaders that we can trust, which, well, that's another topic later. Maybe to pastors. Maybe we might go to pastors. I don't know about that either. But look who God chose. Look who God chose. He picked who? The shepherds. And by the way, it's the shepherds who are on the night shift. Just saying, that's not the A team. I wouldn't even call them the B team. This is like the practice tackle squad for, you know what I'm saying? God chose the shepherds living in the edges and on the margins. They were the outcasts. They were the ones who were unreliable in court. That's who he brought the message to. And heaven breaks open and it says, the glory of the Lord shone around them. See, light shines in darkness. It literally shines in the darkness. Do you see that? And the angel says, hey, don't be afraid. I love that. Every time an angel shows up. Here, can I go on a rant for just a second? That pretty white angel on top of your tree, misrepresentation. I'm going to tell you right now. I'm just telling you right now. That doesn't scare me at all. Don't be afraid. I bring you good news of great joy that will be for all people. All. It doesn't matter your background, where you're from, what you have done, what you haven't done, your credit score, any of that. For all people. Christmas joy is not reserved just for the religious elite. Christmas joy is announced to tired people in fields, those who are on the edges and on the margins of society, those who think that they're forgotten by people, those who never imagined God would show up for them. That's who he came for. That's who he announced his birth of his son to. And suddenly heaven can't contain itself anymore. And the angels break out into song, glory to God in the highest, and on earth, peace. Folks, the dawn arrived. It crested over the horizon. And if you're one of those morning people that like to get up and see the sunrise, when it begins to, not just when it does, right at the edge, soon as that sun peaks over the horizon, everything is different. Everything looks different. Everything feels different. Even the sounds of nature are different. Because the sun has made its dawn. See, for 4 weeks, we followed this movement of Advent, waiting in the stillness and watching for God at work. And now we're at this point of welcoming the dawn. We're almost there. It's getting ready to crest. Welcoming really means more than just admiring, though. Welcoming is more than just admiring. It means we're opening the door. It means we're making room. We're making space. See, the shepherds didn't just listen. After they listened, they went. They did an action. They didn't just observe, but they worshiped. They didn't just go and see, they worshiped. They didn't just return. They just didn't come back and go right back to their normal life. They testified. They told the story. They had received good news, and they were going to share that good news. When the light shows up, it changes what we do next. Does that make sense? It changes what we do next. See, welcoming the dawn is not just believing the story is true. That's important. Believe me. We have to believe. We have to believe. But in fact, welcoming the dawn means allowing that light to change how we live. As we talked about earlier, some of us carry darkness with us, heaviness, pain and frustration and anxiety and anguish and sadness. We smile, we serve, we sing, but there are corners of our lives that we kind of keep shaded and covered up. It's a pain that we've normalized or tried to make sense of, and we just live with it. It's a fear that we've buried, but is still there. It's a loss that we've learned to just live around. And we find ways to cope with it. I want you to hear me. Christmas doesn't shame us for the darkness. In fact, Christmas meets us in it, right where you are. It comes to you right where you are. The light of Christ does not ask permission to enter only the clean rooms, only the neat and tidy spaces. Remember, he was born in a stable. And folks, I grew up on a farm. I've been in a barn. It's not clean. He shows up where things are crowded, where things are messy, where things are unfinished and unkept. See, welcoming the dawn in our lives means saying, Jesus, you can step into this part of my life too that maybe no one else knows about. Not when it's fixed, not when it's polished now. I want this church to be a place that loves. And is a place where they can be introduced to Jesus because they are welcomed, because they are loved, regardless of what they look like, where they're from, what they've done, what they haven't done. Because let's be honest, all of us have been there at one point or another. Would you agree? Malachi promised healing in his wings. See, healing's not always instant. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's slow. Sometimes it's simply the strength to keep going one more step. Some of you need to hear this morning. I want you to hear me very clearly this morning. Healing does not mean that the pain never existed. It did. Do you hear me? Some of you are waiting on that healing. Some of you are walking through that healing. Healing does not mean the pain never existed. Instead, it means the pain no longer defines who you are. Welcoming the dawn means trusting God is still restoring you even when you're not whole yet. He's still working on you. Christmas says this: God is close to the brokenhearted and closer still than what we realize. Now, here's the part that we can't skip. We're called to welcome this mission. We're called to welcome the mission. The shepherds, see, when they received the news, they didn't just keep it to themselves. In fact, they ran through the streets praising, proclaiming, telling anybody who would listen, because they had received good news. When we receive good news, we tell everybody, right? They went back to their fields, but they didn't go back the same way that they left. This is one of the reasons why when I pray, especially on Sunday mornings, I pray that we would leave differently than the way we came in. Because my prayer is that we would have an experience with God, whatever that is, in our own individual way, so that when we leave, we're different, we're changed, not because of what a guy up here says or what somebody sings or whatever, or what we see on a screen, but because of what God does in our hearts. See, the shepherds went back to the fields, but they went back changed. And here's the truth for us. If we welcome the light, we become carriers of that light. Every believer, every person who believes is called to spread the good news. It does not matter if you think you are qualified or not. It does not matter if you have a degree framed and hanging on a wall. It doesn't matter if you have this many credits in systematic theology or this much in Old Testament Bible. It does not matter. If you believe and if God has done something in your heart, you're called to carry that and share that with whoever will listen. In fact, you're going to be better preachers than I can ever be because I have a small audience, you have the whole world. And here's how we share the good news. First, it's how we live. Because people watch a whole lot more than they listen. Yeah? First is how we live, and then, if we get a chance, it's through what we say. So our kindness, our patience, our generosity, our forgiveness, our presence, that's what makes a difference. How you live. Before the words ever leave our mouths, your life is already preaching. And when that moment comes, when that opportunity is available, we speak. But only when it comes. Not with pressure or with fear, but with humility, the same way the light came, with joy. You don't have to have all the answers. Thank goodness for that, because I don't. All we have to say is, let me tell you what I've seen. Can you imagine the shepherds? Let me tell you what I just saw. Let me tell you what changed in me because of what I saw. Let me tell you what's different about me because of what I experienced. I can imagine the shepherds. We don't hear any of what they told others, but I can imagine some of those stories. You will not believe what just happened to me. They were changed. They were different, so they shared. See, welcoming the dawn in our lives, welcoming the dawn can become a sunrise for someone else. We're called to carry that light. It's a beautiful story that goes from Genesis to Revelation and beyond as God continues to reveal himself. Malachi promised it. Israel waited for it. Heaven shows up and announces it in a beautiful way. The shepherds witness it. They witnessed it. And now, today, we live in it. And so, what do we do while we live in it? We share it. And we share it. And we continue to share it some more. By the way that we live. And by the way that we love. See, the dawn has come. Healing has already begun. And the mission continues. That's the message of Christmas. So, church, I challenge you. Continue to welcome the light. Continue to welcome it. Continue to welcome that healing. And continue to welcome that calling that he's placed on your lives to go into the world and make a difference. Because that's who you are, and that's who he has created and called you to be. And may that light that rose in Bethlehem, may it shine through each and every one of you as we welcome his light into our lives. I would invite you to stand with me. As you gather in the next couple of days, maybe some of you already had some gatherings with family and with friends. But as you gather over the next couple of days, be reminded and maybe look for opportunities to live in that light. For that's why we do all this stuff at Christmas. That's why we do all this stuff. Is because the dawn has come. It's different now. Not because of what we do, but because of who he is. And may that light that rose, that came as that dawn crested over the horizon and darkness had to flee. My prayer is that any darkness that you might be carrying with you, any pain, any stress, any anxiety, any hopelessness, any fear, any doubt. My prayer is that as that light comes over the horizon and illuminates what's in the darkness, that you would allow his healing to work through you. It may not happen all at once, but continue to allow it to heal you, to flow through you. And then may you be emboldened by that light. May you be empowered by that light to then carry it to those that are still walking and struggling in darkness. May that light that rose in Bethlehem shine through each and every one of you until every corner of darkness in our homes, in our workplaces, in our schools, in our neighborhoods, wherever we go, may you carry that light in such a way that people can see and experience that the dawn has come. Because he shines through you. That's my prayer for you this Christmas. As you spend time celebrating, let his light shine. Receive it, experience it, and then live it.